All right, today we're talking about mysteries. We're going to approach the world of information like a detective showing up to a crime scene. So for a minute, forget about boring spreadsheets. You are about to solve your very first case. I mean, let's be honest, right? We live in a world that is just constantly throwing information at us. You've got emails, news headlines, social media feeds, even your own study notes. It can seriously feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. And all this stuff, it just swirls around us in this big, chaotic mess of noise, figures, and random facts. It can feel pretty overwhelming. But you know what? For a detective, this chaos isn't a problem. It's the crime scene. It's exactly where every great investigation begins. So, here's our case file for today. We're going to start in that world of noise, see how data acts as raw evidence, and then learn how we can turn that evidence into vital clues using variables. After that, we'll do the actual detective work to get from total chaos to perfect clarity. Okay, first, let's set the scene. Just imagine walking into a room filled with random objects, scattered notes, and footprints all over the floor. That's our starting point, a world of raw, unorganized information that makes absolutely no sense. Yet. So, what's the first thing any good detective does? They stop, they look around, and they start gathering all the raw evidence they can find. They're not trying to solve the case just yet. They're just collecting the facts. And that is exactly what data is. The raw, unedited facts and figures. The fingerprint on a glass, a muddy footprint by the door, a witness statement. These are the individual pieces of evidence we need to collect for our case. In the real world, this evidence could be anything, really. It could be the height of every student in a class, or the number of cars a dealership sold last month, or, the GPA of a first-year university student. Each one is a single, raw fact. But here's the key thing to remember. A giant pile of fingerprint cards and random notes doesn't solve a case. It just gives you a massive headache. Raw evidence is just noise until you start to organize it. So, it's time to stop collecting and start sorting. This is how we begin to make sense of the mess and turn all that raw evidence into clues that are actually useful. Okay, we've got our box full of facts. But now what? How do we get organized? We can't just stare at it all day. We need a system. We need categories. And that's where variables come in to save the day. A variable is just a category for our clues. Think of it like labeling your evidence bags. This bag is for fingerprints, this one for footprints, and this one over here is for witness statements. It's any characteristic that we can measure or count. Let's look at a really concrete example. Here we've got some data from 5 students. The variables are the columns: age, major, and GPA. See how they act like our evidence bags? They organize the raw data for each student. Suddenly, we don't have a random mess of facts. We have a nice organized table of clues. All right, now for the exciting part. We've gathered the evidence and we've sorted it. It's time to do the real detective work. In our world, this is called exploratory data analysis, or just EDA for short. So what is EDA? Well, it's the process of interrogating your evidence. It means you start asking questions, you look for patterns, and you connect the dots to turn that organized list of clues into a clear story of what's really going on. So, if we go back to our student table, it's organized, which is great, but it's still just a list. It's not telling us anything interesting yet. It's like having neat evidence bags all lined up on a table. They aren't solving the case on their own. We have to ask the right questions. Like, is there a connection between a student's major and their GPA? Do engineering students maybe have higher grades than arts students? What is the hidden story in this table? And this is where the magic of EDA really happens. We take those individual clues from our table and we start looking for patterns. We can visualize the data, grouping it, sorting it, to see if a bigger picture starts to emerge from all that noise. And bam! Suddenly, the story becomes crystal clear. The moment we visualize the data, the case is pretty much cracked. We can see instantly that in our small group, the arts majors have the highest average GPA. We've just turned a confusing table into a powerful insight. And this isn't just for student surveys, A real company would do the exact same thing. Their raw data is their sales figures. Their variables are things like which region they sold in or what product they sold. Their detective work, their EDA, is figuring out why sales are dropping and where the problem really is. So let's recap our investigation. We started with a messy crime scene, and we ended with a solved case, all by following a few simple, logical steps. Okay, here's the bottom line. We started with raw data, a chaotic mess of noise. But by identifying our variables and doing a little detective work, we uncovered a story that is clear, insightful, and something you can actually use. That is the real power of this process. Because that's what this is all about, right? You don't get points just for having the most data. You solve the case by finding the story that's hiding in plain sight, just waiting for a good detective to come along and uncover it. Every single collection of data, from your course grades to your phone's screen time, is telling a story. And you now have the first tools you need to be the detective who uncovers it. So the only question left is, what will you discover?